Hi everyone, I'm Sharon Cook. I'm here tonight to do a little demo for you on how to prep your surface for our fun class at Moost Be Spring. I'll hold it over here. We've got some things going on in the background, and we're going to do just a little prep that you'll do before you come to class so that you'll be ready to go. It should be fair to easy to do and actually kind of fun. So let me take you to my surface here and we'll show you where we're going to start. Okay, we have in your instructions that you received, you notice that you base painted your whole board here with an even mixture of baby blue and titanium snow white, and so it left us with a pretty blue background that looks a little bit deeper in real life than it does here on the screen. But we're going to start out by putting in a little bit of that rainy background just by a quick little slip slap method that's very, very simple. We're going to start with a little bit of slate gray, and we're going to start with an oval wash brush like this shape. There was a particular one I specified in the instructions. This one's by the same company, just not the exact same brand, but it doesn't matter. You just need the oval tip on the end. You can see the shape, and then you can see that it tapers this way and that way so that you get some really light, thin bristles at the top. So you need a bubble palette because we're going to be putting some water in here. I want you to get your brush wet, and I want you to add some paint into this slate gray, and I want you just to start mixing it up a little bit. That was my blow dryer that fell off the table. So you don't need that for right now. Okay, so mix up that slate gray. Let's get quite a bit of water in here so that it's pretty soupy. You want to be able to take it to your surface and have it be quite sheer. Test it on a little bit of paper towel first if you're not quite sure. If you want to add a little bit more water, that's just fine. The thinner you want to make it, the easier it is to add to. You can never take away paint that's too dark, but you can always add to it. If you're not sure, move a little bit over to the next palette and make sure that's really thinned and sheer. Okay, so with that brush quite damp, I want you to just start applying in X-like motions, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you're going to work quickly because you want this to stay wet. You don't want this to dry. And you're just going to kind of cover everything. And this is going to look splotchy. And it's not going to look smooth. It was not intended to do that. And notice that as I'm working up towards the middle of the plaque, I haven't really loaded that much more paint in. Now I do need to get a little more color in there because it's starting to get a little dry. So I'm going to put a little more on. I'm going to pull off quite a bit on my palette, and I want to make sure that I'm just slip slapping this on, and I want the color to gradually fade away as the higher up the plaque it gets. So I'm just a little over halfway up there now, and I am getting a little dry again. So once again, I'm going to get a little bit of watery paint, and it's really, really watery now. I kept diluting it every time I added paint, and you're just slapping that up towards the top. I'm going to lay this down flat. It does glare a little bit. Let me see if I can change that. I don't know how to change that glare, so I will hold it back up on an angle. That helps a little bit. And we want to fade in towards the top. Now I'm about 2/3 of the way up. Now I'm going to wet my brush again. I'm in the water here. You can see the edge of it. And I'm not dipping it in paint. And I've just got kind of a dirty water in my brush. So now I am kind of tapering that up until it just kind of gently fades away into the blue. That's what you want. And now, remember, we said that this isn't going to look smooth. There's absolutely zero attempt to make this look smooth or even. In fact, that's a look that you don't want. So you can see that color going on. Now I want you to take a little bit of this darker gray called zinc and go ahead and add it to maybe this pool of slate gray. So this is quite a dark gray. Now this pool that I have here has quite a bit of water in it because I just kept adding to it before with the slate gray. I'm going to get that mixed in really well. And it's changed the shade quite a bit. It's quite a bit darker. I think I want to go even a little more. And we're going to, while this is still wet, we're going to slip slap some of that zinc darker gray in there. And we're going to darken that up quite a bit. Now, a lot of this at the bottom is going to be covered up by our mousse. So it's not necessarily going to be super pretty. So let me tip this up to get rid of some of that glare. And let's start working in some of this darker color. Crisscross, 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 slip slap. And this time we're only going to go about 1/3 of the way up the side of the plaque. You can see that it's quite a bit darker than what we had before, which is fine. Now, the closer you get up to where you want it to start fading in, I'm going to lighten up on the pressure, super light. Now, I'm just so light that I am just barely tickling my arm with some of those bristles. Now, I'm going to wash out a little bit so that it's not quite so dark. And I'm going to try to remove anything that looks like a harsh edge. Again, we're not worrying too much because we're going to have an overlay over this, and we're going to have lots of other colors, sunburst and everything. Okay, so let me try to get this. So you can see that the darkest part is here at the bottom, and it moves up to kind of a medium slate gray, and at the top there's nothing. Go ahead and wash a brush up for a minute. And now I will get this blow dryer that fell to the ground. We're going to turn it on for just a second and we're going to dry this and then we're going to repeat it. So excuse the noise just for a minute. Okay, that didn't take too long. Now, you'll notice that when we have our mousse on top of the plaque, it really covers quite a bit of this along the bottom. And so really, the parts that you want to be the darkest are kind of here, kind of from this point up, maybe about 3 or 4 inches, 3.5, 4 inches. So I'm going to take this and add a little more depth of color. I'm going to add a little bit more color here. It's really glary. Right here through the middle part, just like we did before. So we're basically going to do it twice. So again, I've got my wet brush and I've got my slate gray. This was the first pool that I started that I moved over to this one because it was still a little too dark for my liking. And I'm going to tip it up and I'm going to slip slap in a crisscross motion, working some of this up into that soft blue. And it doesn't matter if we go over this area down there because we're going to darken that again. And let's get some interesting texture going on here. And the higher up that I go, the more up on the tips of the bristles that I go, the less pressure I'm providing. And I'm getting that to just kind of, and when I want it to really, really fade, I'm going to clean out some of the paint from my bristle tips. And I'm just going to be super light here. And we'll just get that faded in. I probably need a little bit more color actually here, over here, to tell you the truth. I neglected that side. Not necessarily intentionally, but That's what happens when you try to paint and talk at the same time. Okay, so I'm liking that. Let me see if I can get it out of the glare for you. Now let's go back to this darker pool again that has the zinc in it. And make sure you're plenty wet. And we're going to start down here at the bottom. Now remember, much of this doesn't show. We want to work some more up on the sides, probably about 3 or 4 inches up on both sides. And do work some of the bottom. There are some parts here along the bottom that may peek through and show, and we want it to look good. If anything should happen to peek through and show, we want the color to be consistent. And I haven't reloaded my brush. You notice the higher up I get, the less paint I'm involving. I'm not adding new paint. I'm just washing up the gray so it kind of does a gradual blend. If you look at the whole plaque, which let me turn it this way so you can see it on the screen better. The darkest part is down here and it fades all the way up to this light blue. And there's different variations all along the way. So go ahead and rinse out your brush and we'll let this dry. And then we'll pick up the rest when we get to class, and that's about it. So that's what you do to prep your wood. The base coat is baby blue and titanium white, equal mixture. Then your first coat of slip slap is slate gray with lots of water. And you start at the bottom and you work up about 3/4 of the way up before you let it fade into the blue. Your second coat is the slate gray mixture, and you added some zinc, which is a very dark gray, more water, and you started at the bottom and went about 1/3 way up. Then you blow dried, and then you repeated the same thing with slate gray, and then again with zinc, keeping the bottom part the darkest. Okay, well, I'm excited to see you in class, and we're going to have a really, really good time. You're going to learn a lot. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you. Bye-bye.